Okay, picture this. You wake up tomorrow, and suddenly, every undocumented immigrant in the United States has been deported. Sounds like a drastic solution to a massive, ongoing legal debate, right? For some, this might seem like a way to uphold laws and create new opportunities. For others, it's a humanitarian and logistical nightmare. This isn't just a policy shift. It's a scenario that would undoubtedly trigger a whirlwind of legal challenges, test the limits of our enforcement capabilities, and raise profound questions about the safety, stability, and very fabric of the nation. We're exploring the potential pros and cons of such a monumental event, a fundamental test of American laws, public order, and economic resilience. So what actually happens if millions are suddenly removed? Proponents might argue for benefits like a more regulated workforce or adherence to immigration law. But what about the other side of the coin? The consequences for our legal systems, economy, and public safety could be immediate and ripple out, touching virtually every community in complex ways. We're diving into the potential upsides and the undeniable challenges, exploring a scenario that could fundamentally alter how we view safety, justice, and our society. First, let's look at the immediate impact. On one hand, some might argue that removing roughly 8.3 million individuals could open up jobs for citizens and legal residents, potentially alleviating unemployment in certain areas. The idea is that industries might then fill these roles with the domestic workforce. However, the counter-argument points to an abrupt crisis in key sectors. Take agriculture, which relies heavily on these workers. Estimates say they make up anywhere from 14% to over 22% of all farm workers. The con? Instant disruption to food supply chains. Construction could lose around 13 to 15% of its workforce, and hospitality about 7 to 8%. Imagine specific trades vital for public safety, like building maintenance. In some areas, over 30% of plasterers, roofers, and painters could vanish. So, while some see job openings, others see a critical loss of labor impacting who maintains and builds our essential infrastructure, alongside the immense legal and logistical operation for removal. The economic effects wouldn't stop there. Proponents might suggest that in the long term, the economy could adapt, perhaps with increased wages in some sectors due to labor scarcity, or a shift towards industries less reliant on this labor pool. Some might also believe that removing undocumented workers reduces the perceived strain on public services. But the immediate economic cons are stark. With fewer workers, production in critical sectors would likely plummet. Farms struggling to harvest crops could lead to food supply instability. Construction delays could worsen housing crises. Manufacturing supply chains could tangle, affecting access to essential goods. The overall U.S. gross domestic product, GDP, could shrink by an estimated 4.2% to 6.8%. Consumer spending would also take a significant hit. Households with undocumented immigrants paid an estimated $46.8 billion in federal taxes and $29.3 billion in state and local taxes in 2022, plus billions to Social Security and Medicare. Losing these contributions would heavily strain government budgets, potentially impacting funding for law enforcement and emergency services, the very services that ensure public safety. Ironically, studies show in many states, these immigrants pay a higher effective tax rate than the wealthiest 1%. Beyond the economics, what about the social impact? A key argument for such a policy is often centered on upholding the rule of law and ensuring a regulated immigration system, which proponents believe enhances societal order and fairness to those who immigrate legally. They might argue this sends a clear message about compliance with national laws. However, the potential social cons are profound. Mass deportation could mean navigating the legal complexities of an estimated 4 million mixed-status families, directly affecting around 8.5 million U.S. citizens, including over 5 million U.S. citizen children, raising urgent legal questions about their rights and welfare. The average income of these households could plummet. Communities could be fractured, schools disrupted, and neighborhoods could lose residents who contribute to informal social controls that bolster safety. The fear and uncertainty could severely damage community trust in law enforcement. The fabric of diverse communities could be torn, potentially leading to social division and unrest. Considering the broader long-term picture, proponents might argue that such a decisive action simplifies legal frameworks over time and ensures that national employment and social systems primarily serve legal residents. Some businesses might adapt through automation or restructuring, potentially leading to new economic models. However, the evidence from past smaller-scale deportations suggests significant downsides. Mass deportations could strain community police relations and, counterintuitively, lead to job losses for U.S. citizens as businesses shrink or close. For every 500,000 undocumented workers deported, tens of thousands of U.S.-born workers could also lose their jobs. Businesses would face operational crises. While some might automate or relocate, this could devastate local communities. Inflation would likely surge. One study projected a potential peak increase of 3.1 percentage points. States like California, Texas, Florida, and New York would face immense logistical and safety challenges, testing their emergency response and legal frameworks. This is an incredibly complex hypothetical with significant arguments on both sides, isn't it? The potential pros, like upholding specific legal interpretations versus the cons for our economy, enforcement agencies, and community stability, go far beyond simple policy debates. What are your thoughts on the potential benefits versus the drawbacks concerning public safety and our legal system? We'd be interested to hear your perspectives on this balancing act in the comments below. And if you found this exploration valuable, please give this video a like and subscribe for more deep dives into critical what-if scenarios. So, deporting all undocumented immigrants tomorrow presents a scenario with deeply contrasting potential outcomes. On one side, proponents might see it as a decisive step towards enforcing immigration laws and reordering the labor market. However, the potential cons are immense. Overwhelming legal systems, severely challenging public safety infrastructure, triggering widespread disruptions to essential services, and causing significant economic hardship. The loss of revenue funding legal and emergency services is a major concern. Beyond the staggering figures, the impact on due process, family law, and community trust would be immeasurable, potentially altering the American legal and social landscape for generations. Ultimately, such a drastic action would force a national reckoning with its perceived benefits versus its profound, multifaceted consequences for every single American.